Act 3. Chapter 23. Onerous Repose. Scatter, flanked by Carta, strutted up to the Watcher and the two young girls. "No, Adun!" Hela shouted. "Now hear me out, young Hela," Adun countered. "I understand you have reservations. Not a chance!" "Seems like little Miss Hela's fire has only grown in my absence," Scatter said sarcastically. "A lot has changed in your absence," Farah echoed. Her interjection into the verbal altercation froze Scatter for a moment. "Why, Farah," he breathed. "Bless Grom, your voice has returned." He hastened to the newly anointed warrior and lifted her up in a hug. Farah hugged him back. She clearly didn't hold the same anger toward him that Hela did. "I heard all about your victory in the tournament," he continued. "The word of a fearsome warrior child is making its way all around the entire Hullhorn." "Where have you been this whole time?" Farah said as Scatter put her down. "We haven't seen you since he murdered his friend who told us about all the Thutan children he's killed," Hela snarked. "Murder is not the right word for what happened at the Rite of Kuloth," Adun corrected her. Hela gritted her teeth. "And what word should I use for blowing up defenseless children of the Call, O wise one?" "Tragedy," Scatter said. "Oh, no, they weren't," Hela snapped back. "A tragedy is something that couldn't be helped. I would burn it all, Rayan, Thutan, all of it. Those were your words. You have no pity, remorse, or regret for it. Don't you dare call them tragedies." Her raw anger began to manifest through the unvanquished flame, her body radiating a red aura that intensified by the moment. "You forgot what I said after that, my dear," Scatter replied in a soft tone. "I would burn even my own bones to wreak vengeance for the terrible heresies of Soul. My actions, the most heinous of actions I've committed against Rayan and Thutan alike, these I bear the weight of for the sake of Grom herself." "Is that so? And then what were we to you and your righteous rage? Were Senna and I the next culled children in line to serve as your explosives? How about Farah? You seem happy to see her today. Would you have shed a single tear to have charged her full of flame back in Call 19 if it meant you'd get a few more Rayans on your way out?" "Oh, my dear," Scatter started, honesty in his voice. "There isn't a single Thutan death by my hands that doesn't haunt me every single day of my life." He knelt down on one knee, holding both of Hela's shoulders. "The spirit of Grom is in you, as it is in me, as it was in Farah at the tournament, and as it is within all who wield her unvanquished flame. The first night you listened to Adun's recitations, immortalizing Thut, I know you felt our holy matron's wrath in your heart. Her heart is broken. It wails for her stolen children, those whom Soul enslaved to spite and humiliate her. It is her desire that none of them should die by sinful Rayan hands. In her heart, she would rather that they die, if they must, filled with the light and the life of her love in those final moments. That from their meager station as indentured slaves of her enemy, they be able to die with honor, with strength, not frozen by asperite and cleaved to bits. She has spoken through my hands, and I wish you could know how painful it was for me each time. But the wrath of our blessed matron cannot be constrained any longer. She is bleeding her heart out into her children that remain. This is why she has chosen you as her avatar. And this is why every one of us who yields their lives to her must become the instrument of her righteous vengeance." "Dear Hela," Adun added, "I have known Scatter since he was but a babe. I know this son of Grom, his words are true. The wrath he has dealt in the name of our holy matron has only ever been at her behest. If Soul had his way, we would all be extinguished, and the Rayans would call it peace. Their apostasy has no limits. It is pure, relentless hate. In contrast, there is nothing in Grom's nature that does not spring forth from love. Therefore, all of her actions could be naught but love. It is hard for we, her servants, to see the breadth of her perfect plan for us. Yet it is not for us to question her will. It is only for us to seek it out and obey. And for those of us who listen to the voice of Grom, it is not a question of if it is her will to take action. It becomes self-evident and will become more clearly so to those who wield the more often that they do. And what about Tauren? Hela countered. Wasn't he a brave warrior who wielded her flame like the rest? His only sin is that he stood up for the lives of the called. He wielded the flame very well, Carta answered. But not like the rest of us. He was always unsure about the mission. That was his sin. Knowing what Grom asked of him or of others and disagreeing with it. I knew the man much longer than you, Avatar. I can understand why you see him as a brave man who stood up against injustice, but in reality, he wasn't courageous. Courage is not wanting to do what must be done, yet still doing it in spite of yourself. For all his skill and strength, he was unwilling to obey the love of Grom. That is why he fell from her graces, why she chose Scatter as her instrument to supplant him, and why she chose Farah as his anointed replacement. Do you understand? Hela held her tongue for a few moments, clenching her jaw as she wrestled with the logic of what each of these men presented. Her flame began to lessen. She wasn't ready to pardon Scatter yet, but after everything she'd heard, she was wavering now. Scatter got back to his feet. I'll admit, my dear, I never know the full plan or how it will wind up in the end. But just think about the parts of it that you've been involved in so far. If you hadn't insisted on coming with me to that late-night meeting with the action group, you would never have bumped into those Night Peace men. I would have never had to kill them to save you. Call 19 would never have become a target of a quarantine purge, and my 2-year mission wouldn't have come to a near-catastrophic end. But had it not, Farah wouldn't have had to come into her true potential. Santa wouldn't have discovered his flame. You wouldn't have melded with Drum, and this bolt of lightning standing next to me over here wouldn't have replaced Tauren. Farah drew back her shoulders and smiled as Scatter continued. Only Grom knows what would have happened if we went through with our plan to attack Epōle where we had a weak link like Tauren in the group. And what might now be possible with Farah and you instead, little Avatar? Yes, indeed, Adun added. And now then, this brings me back to the reason I requested your audience, all of you. What of the plan to attack Epōle? As I understand it, we are under a tight timeline to coordinate our efforts. Scatter, Carter, how did your petitioning of the other tribes go? Is that where you've been? Farah asked. That's right, my little fire starter. Well, Grom has been preparing every one of you here in Irant. Carter and I were out trying to muster up more willing to try to join the next assault. And? Farah prompted. How did it go? How many did you get? You're looking at him, my dear. He widened his arms to emphasize the absence. Adun's face fell. Oh my, yes, it is as I feared. What do you mean? Farah demanded. 13 tribes couldn't offer up anyone to help us with our sworn enemies? What about the competitors from the tournament? 4 people stepped up for that on a whim. All they wanted, Farah, was your hound, Scatter said. Selfish cowards, some of the worst kind. The only one who might have answered the call was a certain Alturian, and it would seem by Grom's judgment that even he was unfit for the task. When Farah colored at that revelation, Scatter patted her on the shoulder to express his support for her actions. But can we still accomplish the task with the few we yet retain? Adun asked. Carta nodded. Yes, we still have one enormous advantage. The Acolyte. No one inside the city knows about him. What's an Acolyte? Farah asked. Not an Acolyte, the Acolyte, Carta corrected. He's an insider who's been feeding us tactical information for the past year or so. We don't know who he is, just that he's someone well situated to glean pertinent intel from inside Epōle. Inside Epōle? Hela raised an eyebrow. How could anyone inside that rat cage get information from the Rayans? Scatter answered. It's because he is a Rayan, my dear. What? She shouted back. You're planning our attack with a Rayan? Are you completely insane? Normally, I would agree with you, Hela, Carta countered. But his information has always been correct. For over a year, I've been receiving extremely valuable data from the Acolyte that have demystified many of the most important facets of Epōle's inner workings. Their network of causeways, the pressure tiles, their use of optical nodes, communications, and events like the one I mentioned in our meeting in Call 51. And it's the latter that we need to exploit. What's worse, if we don't move soon, we'll lose our window. You cannot trust a Rayan, she pushed back. I don't care what kind of info he's been giving you or for how long. It's a trap. I guarantee you it is. Little miss, Scatter said, the Acolyte has had ample opportunities to trick and trap us. Not only has this nameless Rayan not done so, but whoever he is, he has risked his own life to afford us all the advantages we've had up to this point. I'd say it's fair to assume he's, at the very least, a Thutan sympathizer, if not an active saboteur. That's correct, Carta concurred. The Acolyte is the greatest asset we Thutans have had since our fall 8 centuries ago. And he's given us a significant opening right into the inner round in only 2 days from now. Adun nodded. Indeed, please, explain this opening to us and what you have planned for it. Gladly, Carta responded. If you'll recall, Hela, I mentioned word of an important ceremony that was in the works back at our meeting in Call 51. Since then, and before we were forced to flee, the Acolyte has extrapolated on the ceremony's details and engineered a window for us. I'm not sure how he managed to do it, but he has assured us that the pressure tiles of Epōle will be inoperable for a period of 12 minutes. What? Hela exclaimed. The Acolyte can do that? I sense it's a one-time opportunity. That's why we absolutely must exploit it. With the city's pressure tile systems offline for that amount of time, a team of fire starters could make its way from the call walls along the causeways to the ceremony in the inner round within 9 minutes. That would allow us to strike a debilitating blow near the roots of the Aspirite network, potentially disabling a vast portion of the Rain's counter-Thutan security systems throughout the city. How glorious would it be to have free reign in that rat-infested city, ha ha! Scatter chimed in. Imagine the damage we could cause. It would take them a generation to build it back. How exactly do you and Carta plan on causing this destruction? Hela demanded. First, Carta answered for Scatter. It wouldn't just be 2 of us. We'll require as many flame wielders as we can get to join the raid. That includes you and Farah with your hullhounds. Their speed will be crucial. Hela crossed her arms. That doesn't answer my question. I was getting there, Carta continued. After our meeting in Call 51, I received more intel on the ceremony that will be taking place in the inner round from the Acolyte. He paused and took a deep breath. It's a sacrifice. Dear Grom, Adun muttered. What does that mean? Farah asked. It means they're planning to slaughter a Thutan as tribute to their unholy god, Scatter said, spitting on the ground in visible disgust. They do that? Hela asked, placing a palm over her mouth. My dear Avatar, Adun said, there is nothing too vile or sacrilegious for those pigs of Epōle when it comes to serving the will of their Dark Lord's soul. Now, to answer your question, Hela, what exactly we plan on doing to cause maximum damage to Epōle is the following. They'll be bringing a Thutan into the inner round as their sacrifice. We are going to make sure that child of Grom serves the will of our holy matron, not that of the Rayan's god. Our goal is to imbue him with the unvanquished flame such that they go to Grom while taking as many high-ranking Rayans as possible with them, and crippling the city's infrastructure in the process. Wait, you're going to blow up the hostage? Hela spat back. Is that your great plan? Isn't there any other trick you people know? It's our highest yield attack option, Scatter countered. That's just the facts, my dear. But haven't you tried this before? Before you killed Torin, he said you filled people from Call 51 with flame to strike at the inner round. What happened that time? Yes, that's true, Hela, he admitted. If you'll permit me to give you a brief history lesson on the whole situation, you may yet understand the reality of what was going on around you before I came to your lovely call. Hela's arms didn't uncross, but she didn't protest either, so Scatter proceeded with his explanation. Before they transferred me to replace the traitor Tarlin, I was a member of Call 51. That call consisted of one other adult and 3 children, only one of whom had come into their power as a wielder of the unvanquished flame. A 12-year-old boy. His name was Nico, and he was born to be a warrior, much like yourself. Full of the tenacity and vitality of a true child of Grom. I loved that boy and carry his memory with me every day, like a ghost. Scatter paused for a moment, staring off in the distance, almost like he was trying to see someone on the horizon. He then snapped back to the story. They sent Nico and I on blessing to the inner round the same day you discovered your flame in the understreet. About as far as I had ever gone in the 2 years I'd been in the cause. We could see the crest of central arbitration over the walls of where we were beautifying the landscaping. 2 from the call, a woman named Twella and a 14-year-old boy named Still, were in an adjacent grid working on installing new gutter plating. To pass the time, Nico and I played a little game, not unlike how you and I did during the crate translocation. He was new to wielding and had 101 questions to throw past me. I was happy to oblige, of course, but at a certain point, his demeanor changed. His face turned from wonder to rage. My dear, I had never seen that look in his eyes before. Raw, boiling rage at being so close to the power center of our enemy, knowing we had the power to do something about it. Yet here we were, tending their cursed flowers. Hella understood the indignity he was describing only too well. It was something she had faced on a daily basis in the grids of Epōle. So it didn't seem strange to her at all that a 12-year-old flame wielder would feel such rage. She knew she would have as well. I'll never forget it, Miss Hella, Scatter's voice cracked. The fire in little Nico's eyes when he begged me to do something about it. He wasn't asking me to fight a peaceman or 2. He was pleading with me to destroy what lay just over that wall. And child, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath. At that moment, I knew I wasn't speaking with Nico. It was the spirit of Grom speaking through him, and I understood what she wanted me to do. Hella had never seen Scatter cry before, but now the most murderous Thutan she knew was rubbing a hand over his eyes to try and hide it. I was the only one who could have done it. If Nico could have overcharged me with the flame, I swear to Grom, I would have taken his place 1,000 times over. But it had to be him, and it had to be me doing it. So I did. I tore another hole in my heart so that he might tear a hole in the heart of Epōle. I couldn't have anticipated what happened after I loaded him up with flame. The reaction from the peacemen, the flood of shark troopers, all that was a given. It was the others from Call 51 running all the way from the next grid at the sound of Nico's screams. No, I couldn't have seen that coming. You see, my dear, it's less than comfortable when you're supercharged with the unvanquished flame. Truthfully, it's agonizing. That's why Torin's accusations is so insulting. Who would try to restrain that much flame by force? It takes an iron constitution even to attempt it. Anyway, I'd already taken cover, knowing what was about to happen. He tried to hold it in for so long, but it was the screams of that boy child which drew the others over into his blast range. Hella interrupted Scatter at this point. So, Nico decided himself, okay, but did the explosion do anything to the Aspirate network? Because why would we even do it again if it had no effect the first time? Well, as you know, I didn't learn about the floor network until you discovered it. But after that point, I did think back to your question. You see, Nico wasn't trying to disrupt the municipal superstructure of Epōle. He wanted to strike at the heart of that accursed city, central arbitration. Ironically, he may have even been able to do both were it not for the elite shock troopers. You see, Rayans, for all their evil, are clever people. They couldn't get close enough to kill Nico as the power flowing off of him was far too intense. So instead, they focused all their Asperite sabers on him and launched him into the air, where he exploded. The eruption wasn't close enough to the ground or the wall to cause significant structural damage, but wasn't far enough away to save the troopers or other members of Call 51 who were running towards him. They all died in fire. Tears now dripped down Scatter's cheeks. What happened to the other child from Call 51? Hella asked, the expression in her eyes softening this time. Bran, yeah, she was only 8. That day was her enlightenment training, so she wasn't on blessing with us. Something clicked in Hella's mind when he said that. Wait, that was the same day they sent Finn home from enlightenment early. Do you think there's a connection? You know, Scatter remarked, that would make sense. The thing is, they had no idea what happened in the inner round, only that some Thutan child from Call 51 spontaneously exploded. Bren and I were the only surviving members of that call. I was sent to Call 19 with you guys thanks to the Acolyte. I guess maybe they were worried about Bren exploding in the Enlightenment Chamber like Nico. I never learned what became of her. Probably just moved her to some other underpopulated call. She's still alive, Scatter, Farah said, patting him on the arm, and we're gonna free her and the cult. Grom's love, Adun responded. Grom's love, Scatter said as Carta clasped his shoulder. Hela pursed her lips and didn't say a word. Grom's love, came an unexpected voice from somewhere behind the group. Fald waltzed into view with Senna in tow. Red? Farah yelled. How long have you been spying on us? Just long enough to know I'm coming city-busting with you. Not a chance, she snapped back. You're not a warrior, and you're needed here. Okay, I'm needed here, am I? To tend the Hall Hounds? You know, those Hall Hounds that are meant for warriors? The warriors we don't have enough of? Is that why I'm needed here? Farah huffed, but didn't respond to Fald's point as he continued. Look, we've already broken tradition by letting Finn fight in the tournament, all to get another warrior melded to a Hall Hound. I might not be a warrior, but I'm already melded to a Hall Hound, and I've been riding and tending them since before Cartha and Barrack were even born. So in that way, I could say I'm even more fit for duty than Scatter or yourself. How are you with the flame? Scatter asked. You aren't considering this, are you? Farah shot back. I'm skilled enough to coach 2 called Thutans into a tournament victory in less than a day, Fald replied, lifting his chin. I'm more than capable of holding my own, trust me. I'd vouch for him, Hela said to Farah's visible shock and disgust. That's because you don't care if he dies, Farah shouted. Well, Fald stepped up beside her. I'm thrilled to see that you do, gorgeous. Actually, I feel the same way. I'm not volunteering myself for some suicide pact. Farah, I have every intention of living through this assault. So between the two of us working together to keep me alive, I think I'll be just fine. You've never even been to Epōle, Red, Farah protested. How can you even know what it's like? You called it a meat grinder when you were trying to scare Finn. You have no idea. There's no way you could, but I do. Adun, if I may, Scatter raised his hands. As a watcher of the unbroken binds of Erunt, you have the final say in these matters, and you understand what is at stake here. Do you think young Fald here should join the raiding party? Farah gazed at Adun with wide, passionate eyes. The watcher paused, considering the request for several moments. Then he addressed Fald directly. Fald of Erunt, you are not a warrior chosen of Grom. Thank you, Farah replied, letting out a relieved breath. Therefore, Adun continued, were you to join such an endeavor, Grom may not bless your presence. Warriors are determined in the way that they are specifically to prove they are chosen by Grom to start fires. If you start fires against our enemies without being a chosen fire starter of our blessed matron, you risk angering her. Is that something you are willing to risk? I am, Fald said. None of my jobs here in Arunt are more important than striking against the Rayans. So be it, Adun concluded. You go without the blessing of Grom. May her will be done. Scatter slapped Fald on the back. Ha ha! Wonderful! Welcome to our band of ill reputes, my boy! Farah glared at Adun. She opened her mouth to speak, but a small voice beat her to it. Then I'm going too. It was little Senna. Everyone had forgotten he was listening with Fald as well. By Grom, you are not! Hela snapped. Stop it, Hela! Senna pushed back for the first time in his life. You didn't want me to enter the tournament either, and I almost won it. But you didn't, Finn, she argued. You lost, and you can't lose in Epōle. You get killed for that. The only reason I lost to Bathor is because I saved his life. I beat him. You just never saw it. That's what I love about you most, Finn. Your heart, Hela pleaded. You're too kind to even let your opponent die. How do you expect to kill Rayans if you need to? I saw what they did to that man back on the rooftop. They held me up in the air too, back at the outer wall. I know they're evil, Hela. I know the difference. But I'm strong now. You even said so. And if you're going back to Epōle, so am I. You don't get to just leave me behind. At that statement, his voice cracked and his flame ignited. Little Finn, Scatter interjected. You are amazing, my boy. I believe you would be a great help to us in Epōle. But I agree with your sister. You'll have many other opportunities in the future to fight for Grom. I will take good care of Miss Hela. You have my word. I'll take good care of myself, thank you, Hela retorted. But he's right, Finn. We're going to be in and out of that city on this mission. You can come with us in the future. Senna's face fell and he looked down at the ground. It's just because I'm small, isn't it? You're still the bravest kid in the Hallhorn in my eyes, Finn, Fald said, reassuring him. Yes, indeed, Adun added. And now then, we shall reconvene this evening after recitations. Consider, all of you, what may lie ahead. We will devise the plan of attack tonight with everyone's input. Until then, eat, rest well, and Grom be with you. They all replied, Grom's love. The group of youngsters headed back from the town circle toward Fald's family home. Farah and Fald were a few lengths ahead of the others, arguing over something trivial. Finn! Fald shot back at Senna, who was walking beside his sister. Come, settle this for us and help me prove Farah wrong. Senna looked up at Hela, who shrugged. Go, little brother, it's fine. He rushed off to see what was going on. Hela chuckled to herself. Then, something caused her to stop. Hey, Avatar, over here. A voice. It came from one of the shop porches along the main road back through the town. A man stepped out from its shade and sidled up to Hela. Hello, she said. Do I know you? Know me, yes, you did. You used to. I'm sorry, please forgive me. I don't know how to do this. Do what, stranger? She replied in an uncertain tone. I shouldn't be a stranger, and you see, that's the problem, I suppose. It's just that, Hela, I'm your father. Scatter's journal. After days of Carter and I petitioning the other 12 tribes, it appears our folk are even less inclined to fight now. All 6 that I visited mentioned words I'd heard from Orun's own mouth, so I assume he's spent much of our time away spreading his poison. Let it be known that the following 11 tribes of the Hallhorn offered no willing to the cause. Corunt, Paltir, Alta, Sundra, Gareth, Holm, Suldent, Forinth, Gerda, Odunt, and Talrot. The only willing left in Grom's sacred mountains comes from Erunt, Panth, and from the very coals of Epōle.